apparently. Yeah. Okay. So, welcome everyone to the penultimate meeting of our sessions in Greek in the introduction of Greek epigraphy. Today we have a guest lecturer by the name of Valentina Mignosa from Foscari University of Venice. You have met her already, so I think we do not need to do a very formal introduction. The happiest thing is that she has returned to her alma mater for a new project, which I think she may refer to at some point in today's presentation. Maybe.
Not really, but I can.
Yeah. Other than that, we're very thankful to her agreement to speak to us, and she will be speaking on things that we have referred to in the first session, especially of our meetings, but we didn't have the time to delve into. So she will do that for us before then discussing, and she has also uploaded the handouts in the chat, so you can see all the resources for digital projects as well. It's a very, very long and very nice handout. So, Valentina, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Usual question, can you hear me, see me, everything? I will share the screen. Yeah. Just 1 minute. I think I will share the screen because I want to link with the online sources. So let's see. So everything's fine?
Yes, everything is fine.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to thank you, Manolis and Stefanos, for this opportunity, because I'm very excited to be part of this lively group of people, and it's a pleasure to be here and see you all in a way online. I hope I will not repeat too much things that you already know, but and in a way you can enjoy the lecture. The two handouts I have sent in the chat are linked to the Drive folder, but I think you have access to it. The first one is about some references on the big topic of the birth of Greek alphabet. So, like the main and update bibliography on it, so if you are curious and you want to go deeper. And the second handout is about all the, as far as I know, of course, all the tools, projects that are online today, are work in progress and are useful to study Greek epigraphy or just or do research and so on. So I will talk about it later. I'm just dividing the lecture into parts. The first one about the history and function of early Greek writing. So basically, I just want to talk about the birth of the Greek writing, giving you more questions than answers. I mean, giving you an overview of this big problem and maybe the tools to face the problem of the birth of the Greek writing in a very aware and critical way. And then I will just finish this lecture quickly, provided you an overview of the digital tools about epigraphy that are useful for epigraphy, and just an overview to show how many things there are now going on, and also how many opportunities you can have with this new field. So let's go. Okay. Yeah. So when we start dealing with the so difficult problem as the first early stages of the Greek alphabet, we have to just start with basic question, I think. So, for example, when, how, where, and for what purpose it was birthed and it was born. And I can imagine that you already have this discussion in the first lesson, but I will try to just be more critical and find a way to I don't know, just put in discussion all your certainty about this problem. But let's begin with what is the birth for writing, what we mean for it. It is, of course, the adaptation of Phoenician alphabet to create a new alphabet that could correspond to the Greek language. So, as you may already know, it is a way to the Greeks just took the Phoenician alphabet and used 5 different signs to create to emulate the vowel timbres, and also other signs to create their other letters. So this was a big step because it was the actual invention of the Greek alphabet using another one that was conceived for another language, the Phoenician one. And this is something that we have to keep in mind when we think about these early stages. And we'll come back to it again in a few minutes. So let's go with the first question, when. It is a consensus today that here somewhere close to the second half of the 9th century. 800 is the date that more or less all the scholars agree with. But the problem is, how can we be so sure about this date? The first thing to know is that the first inscription found in the first evidence of the alphabet were found in Pitekusae, Ischia, and they date to the last quarter of the 8th century BCE. But this evidence feature a very sophisticated and developed alphabet. So the assumption is that when the Euboean founded Pitekusae in Ischia, they already have a good developed alphabet, and so this alphabet should date to some years before, so at least at the period of the last quarter of 9th century. So the first introduction of the Phoenician alphabet in Greek environment took place much earlier, so at maybe in the first half of the 9th century. What I just show you very quickly is that we do not have, we are not sure about it. We are just doing the math, because the first evidence about the early phases of the alphabet are not, they do not correspond to the very first stages of the alphabet. What we see in 8th century BCE is something developed, and it's something systematized. It's not the first stages of the alphabet. So when we, I've just put a map to show the place in which there is Ischia. So in the place in which we found like 740 inscriptions from the second half of the 8th century. And so when we talk about the when, so when the alphabet was born, we have to deal with other problems, like can we have the precise moment of the invention of the alphabetic writing, and also how quickly this alphabet spread. Was a matter of a few years, months, weeks, even days, someone said. And also, this prototype, this alphabet that we can see on the first evidence, is the prototype alphabet, or is something like of some centuries after? To the first question, I have to say that we cannot have the absolute date, of course, and I'm quoting here Vesta, because it's very, it's like the last maybe discussion about the first stage of alphabet, that we don't have the chance to see the very moment of invention, also because the first stages of the alphabet were probably on perishable material. And so what we see when we have inscription on ceramic, for example, or on stone, it's something that is already systematized, and so it was worth to put in a not perishable object. To the second question, I will start just putting some nuances on our matter. There are two schools of thought here. There is a first school according to which writing took a long time to be formalized and systematized. So after that, it just spread quickly, but in order of months. And there is another school of thought according to which the invention of the alphabet was a matter even of a few weeks and not a month. That is Vesta. And then I have to say, to the last question I ask, it's not what we can see is not the prototype alphabet. As I said, it's very likely, and I'm quoting Vesta here because it's very interesting, his point of view, that what we missed is very and diverse and numerous different experiments on the alphabet in the first stages that we will never know, because maybe they were on perishable material and were just the first experiment to try to adapt the Phoenician alphabet. So as I said at the beginning, I will maybe not give you one answer to all these questions, but I hope to give some nuances on this matter. So let's go to the where. So where, of course, it implies by whom. It is another very debated question, because the first thought about the where by scholars was if this alphabet was taken by the Phoenicians, the place should be a place that is somewhere between the Phoenicians' environment and the Greek one. So, for example, Geoffrey was not confident. In fact, she said possibly that could be Almina, for example, the first one possible place to put as the place for the birth of the alphabet. I will show in a bit. Yeah, that's Almina. So a place that was in near the Phoenician environments and the Greek environments, and also a place in which there was found Greek settlement later than the 9th century, I have to say. So it was just like a good place, because it has an arbor, there is a sort of emporium, so it could be that place, but it was just a hypothesis. I forgot to say that I put like links and everything inside the PowerPoint, because I want to share it with you, or just send in a way to you, because it's maybe it's easier to just see everything on it. So if you want to take note, just everything here you will have in your computer. So I just put a link here to Pleiad to show you the exact place of Almina and all the coordinates, just to give you the sources of every map of things I will present. So Almina was one place, but for example, another theory is Guarducci, according to which Crete, to whom Crete was the place, because for several reasons, Crete, of course, that's the map of Crete. And so why Crete? Because Crete has several letters that are very, very similar in the early stages to the Phoenician ones. So according to Guarducci, this could be one of the reasons to use this as an argument. And also the Phoenicians and Cretans have had several contacts, so it was very clear that the island could be the environment in which they just had contacts and create a network. And also, of course, Cretans could be also good candidates to as the person that spread after the invention of the alphabet this technology all over the Mediterranean during the first phase. But of course, this theory, the first one by Guarducci, but also the one by Jeffrey, are not neither proven, neither certain, because we have not evidence. That's the problem. And so maybe in this case, we have to abandon this positivistic point of view and just not look for a place like one city or one spot in the Mediterranean, but we have to be more cautious and think about the invention like something that up in one place, a general place in the Mediterranean, like an harbor or an emporium, that could be the place in which these Phoenicians and traders and the Greek traders meet and have conversation and so on. So it's a theory by Lurag and Vesta and other scholars that we have just to accept that we cannot find the precise spot, but we have to say that it's one local in the margins of the Greek world, as Luragi said. And Vesta, in a very provocative way, said that was a casual meeting between Greek and Phoenician traders somewhere in the Mediterranean. But the reality is, I think, like that. It's something that we cannot trace. And then, of course, after the invention, the Euboeans were the most suitable candidates to spread this technology from east to west and in all the Mediterranean, because they were very active traders, but also colonizers, as you can see from the colonization of the Isola of Ischia and other area in the Mediterranean. So they were, of course, they are, of course, the most suitable candidates in this respect. So let's go to the how. In this case, we have two, again, school of thought. A first school is the single adaptation theory. So the idea is that the creation of the Greek alphabet is based on one single event. It happened once and in one place, and then it spread. The other school is the multiple takeover theory, that is that the alphabet just was an invention that happened several times in several places. So this adaptation of the Phoenician alphabet was something like common in all the Mediterranean, but luckily for us, this theory is very it's been abandoned from the 80s onwards. So there is a consensus now that the alphabet was invented once, because it's very unlikely that in different places people just have this idea to adapt the Phoenician alphabet to the Greek one. The problem, of course, is that this single adaptation theory is not enough to understand the way in which the alphabet spread and was invented. So there are here again several thoughts on it. Basically, we have one theory that is that the alphabet just was invented by chance. So basically, one person, a kind of genius, just said, "Oh, but just have a meeting with Vesta said, a little party on a pleasant summer evening with some Phoenician," and so it just said, "Oh my God, it's so cool, your invention, I could use it," and then it spread all over the Mediterranean. And the second theory that I think is more reasonable is that the process to invent the new alphabet was a long process. I mean, in the term of years, and then it spread in a few months, because maybe it's reasonable to think that after this very huge technology start to in a way function, so other people just spread it very easily and quickly. But the invention of it, so I mean this passage from the spoken word to the written word is very difficult indeed in our languages that are with grammar, with so if you have to learn a language, it's very difficult to go from the spoken to the written word if you learn it starting from the spoken skill. So it's something that if you think that this alphabet was conceived for definitions, and that the Greeks had to adapt it to their language, it seems very suitable that it was something that occurred years and a long process of systematization and many experiments of which we will not be never aware probably. And I will then just start just talking about the last question, that is, for what purpose? That is also I think just the most interesting question in here, also the most tricky maybe. For what purpose? It's a question that it's very much debated, of course. And the first answer was, of course, to record the Homeric epics. But unfortunately, this is very far from real, because it's true that many early graffiti indicate contexts that are very different, and also urges that are very different from just recording the Homeric epics. So I will show some examples to just give you an overview of this first evidence. The first example is not, I would say, it's not on purpose. It's just due, and it's the Nestor's cap. I know that you already dealt with it, but I have to say that the Nestor cap is not the normal evidence that you could find in these first centuries of writing. It's like a spectacular exception, I would say. So you have to think about this evidence as an exception in a big landscape of inscription of one word, one name, one letter, even not inscription, but signs and marks. So this inscription is very remarkable indeed, because it's inverse or quite inverse, because it's not also regular, and it's also on a very good vessel. So you can see the expertise behind the creation of the vessel and behind the inscription. I just put here a link to the Axon database if you are curious in the future and you want to go deeper and see all the information about the cup. Here is the very first drawing of the Nestor cup in Editio Princeps of Buchner Russo. And again, the link to the epigraphical record. So we have to take in mind that this is just an exception in our epigraphical landscape. What I want to show you, so it's that this epigraphical inscription in verse, it is just it is just like something that shows a kind of literacy of one speaker, one writer, but it's not like that everyone could write and read like that. So I would start like from the beginning, and I would try to define what is literacy. Of course, literacy in the modern world is something that is completely different from what we mean for the ancient world. Literacy today is just to be able to live in a modern society and to have the skills to not only read, writing, and read, write, and count, but also to be aware of the society in which we live and be capable of have interaction with it and effective communication with the world. But literacy in the ancient world is, of course, just the ability to write and read. There is a very good article by Rosalind Thomas. I put here the URI to give you the reference about literacy in the ancient world that could be helpful for the future. And the Thomas theory is very interesting indeed, because her thought is that we have different levels of literacy. So we have different levels of also of speaker that are like of different social conditions. So we have to just forget the idea that only the elite can write, because it's not like that. It's something, maybe the elite can write the Nestor's cup, but it's not that in the early stages of writing only the elite had the urgency of writing. So I was saying that there are different levels of literacy. There is, for example, what she called the name literacy. That is just knowing the alphabet and being able to, for example, write your name, or maybe just to figure out a very canonical message like a sign or something like that, or the short message. And then there are other levels of literacy and the full literacy. I have found recently a very good distinction, and that's the reason why I put the red words, between what is the name literacy, so you know the alphabet, you can just write your name, and what is the full literacy, that is you can just write everything and read everything. And so this scholar is, of course, it's a modern, it's a Greek epigraphist, I think, and he gave this distinction about between alphabetismo and grammatosini. I'm not sure about the translation in my language because we say alfabetizzazione. And in English is everywhere literacy. That is, I think we have to think about literacy as like an umbrella with several nuances inside. So maybe in Portuguese could be alfabetização and literacia. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing, and I can use your advice if you are willing to. So anyway. But also, so it's very interesting to have this distinction, because it does mean that you can also look at the epigraphy just having this perception that every different evidence is maybe just something that a person with the name literacy can do, because maybe he was willing to mark his name on a vase, but maybe he was not very illiterate. And also we have, for example, the craft literacy. That is very interesting because it's the ability to write something very specific, because maybe you are a craftsman and you need several terms that are useful for your work, but you don't know, for example, other words, so you can just use this word as in your shop, in your workshop, but you don't really know how to write. And then there is the functional literacy, that is the ability to write and to read in a very particular environment. For example, the author of the Nestor Cup could be a person that has that had the knowledge and could maybe recreate the verse because he had this knowledge, but maybe couldn't write everything or read everything. And also we have to remember that writing and reading skills are very, very different things. So I can read French, but I'm not very fluent in writing it, for example. So we have to also have to keep in mind that this distinction is very human indeed. So it's not something modern. It was, of course, something that happened in the early stages of writing. And so I want to just close this part about the early stages of writing, presenting you some graffiti from this area, the Mesoni, that was a Euboean apoikia. It was founded in 735 or something like that, maybe before, even before, and it is in the near, like in the Limes of Macedonia. So it is a site that has been very well excavated recently. And in 2012, they found the inscription in a pit. There were a lot of different shards of ceramics and vessel, even in wall vessel, entire vessels in this pit. And all this excavation has been very well published and is open access online. So I put all the links I could in the PowerPoint because it's very user-friendly. It's in modern Greek, so of course it's not it's not in English, okay, but with all the means we have, DeepL, for example, you can easily translate and understand the context of everything. So this is Mesoni, and this is the first example I will show you. So the first stages of writing were characterized by inscription, longer inscription, and also these kind of marks. And according to some scholars, these marks that are called today para-alphabetical marks or pre-alphabetical marks are the marks that were used even before the invention of writing. Because, for example, a craftsman has the urge maybe to flag its product, or when he sells it, to mark that it is sold, for example, or something like that. And these marks are very, very ancient and are also very common in every culture. So the idea is that these marks are the like the first stages before the use of the invention of the Greek alphabet, but also are the stage in which you can see that there is the urge to start writing, to start marking, to start flagging, and so on. So in Methoni we have all these different levels of writing, also of literacy, I would say. So we have the mark, we have the longer inscription, and that's why I think it was very interesting to show you this corpus, also because it's very something relatively new. So we have, for example, other marks that are like that, just a cross. Okay, you can see that you can say that it's a key shape, but it's pretty clear that is empty on the right and on the left. So it's basically a mark on the ceramic made after firing. And then we have something like that it's basically impossible to understand. So it's a letter. It's something like a mark of some kind. It's just impossible to say. And we have to. I want to point out that we are at late 8th, early 7th century BC. So it's we are near the early stages of writing. Then we have something like that could be hourglass, if you think that the sign finish here, or maybe a very squared star if you think it continues here. And finally this, that is a knee on the neck of a very big amphora, fragmented but reconstructed, and it's very common. This the use of a letter, one letter, on the neck or the shoulders of one vessel is very common all over the Mediterranean and in the Greek landscape as well. And the problem is, what is this? It is a commercial mark. It is the workshop mark. It's very difficult to say, and we usually say that is a commercial mark just because it's easier, but I think they are not all the same and are not commercial marks, but it's kind of impossible to find the right answer here. And then this inscription that is not an inscription, is a mark or is an inscription, is very difficult to say, but it's true that here we have an alpha and a gamma in the Euboean alphabet. So we are in a place that is a Euboean apoikia. So it's very remarkable that even if it's a sign, we have a system in place here. So the writers, they know this system because it was already systematized, and they can write it in different levels with different purposes. And then we have longer inscription, like this beautiful one, that is on this vessel that in the other side is empty, but is partly reconstructed. And we can, it's from right to left, and we can clearly, very clearly read the name Filionos Emi. So we have here what we in Italy call iscrizioni parlanti. That means the inscriptions that can speak for them. So in English, it's the ownership inscription. So it's the inscription that is used to say this vessel is of this person. And it's remarkable that the alphabet is the Euboean one, and it's very neat. So you can see that there is here an expertise. We are in the late 8th, early 7th century BC. And the other very interesting thing here is that we have at the beginning of description, it is prosaic, it is prose. But according to the editor, the closure is in trochaic rhythm because it's long, short. Of course, it's something that can be. It's something like not so sure, but could be something like that, because we are here in Methoni. We have other examples like that, and also in all the Mediterranean we have this inscription that start with the prose and then finish with a meter on a rhythm in a way. And I'm pretty confident that this phenomenon is just what you can see of this phase in which from the oral sphere the people pass to go to the written word. So maybe this sound, the rhythm, is just like the evidence that there were two different spheres, and when the writing started, they just match. They just find a match, and then they use the meter for this reason. And also we have this beautiful inscription that is very, very fragmentary, but also very neat. And I put I put the links to the database of inscription from Methoni. This is different photographs of the same vessel, and this is the drawing and the edition. So you can see, I will go back, no, sorry. You can see pretty clearly the name here, Akesandros. And this inscription is written on two different lines that are very close. So you can read here the last part of the inscription, and here the first part of the inscription with the name. And I will show you the edition with an idea of what the text would have been, with the name that is very clear, and it's in a genitive case, and is this Akesandro that is from akeomai, that is to heal, to fix. So would mean, maybe the name would mean something like the man who heal people or something like that, but it's not very important here. We have the start of the verb, so M, it's clear on the ceramic, and then there is this reconstruction that is, of course, based on comparison with other texts. And I have to say that in this case we are very close to the Nestor's Cup, because again we have here a text that is speaking and is saying, I am the poterion, maybe, so the drinking cup, or the skufos. We are not, there is lost part here, of Akesandros. And then there is another big lacuna, but it finish with the aton, stere, and is visible as sigma. So the reconstruction is based on a comparison with in another text, and other texts similar. For example, the text I put here, in which after the declaration, I am the vase of vessel of this person, there is a osdan me. So there is the declaration, there is a threat basically. So the vessel is saying, if you steal me, you will be blind, poor, or something like that. So in this case, we have this very, very well preserved description from Cuma, so near Ischia, near in Italy, that is from the 7th century BC. That see, I am the lekytos of Tataie semi lekytos, osdan me klepsei typhlos estai. So she because Selekito, sorry. It is basically saying I'm just threatening you, and I'm saying that if you steal me, you will be blind. But there are different inscriptions of the same typology, so it was kind of a topos in this period. We have to think it was kind of a sort of normal thing for on ceramics to put the name and then this threat. Maybe it's something ludic, of course, maybe it's not a real threat. And so they just reconstruct the second part of the inscription from Metone with the same structure. So may whoever steals me be deprived of this ice or money, because here with this ending with the aton could be both omaton or crematon, so it could be very suitable in this picture. And again, here we have an inscription that starts with prose and finish with something similar to a iambic rhythm. So again, something that is like finish in a very musical way. So it's not. I think it's not by chance that it's like that, and the other one is like that. And it's also an idea, recent idea, that the Nestor's Cup would be something like a joke on this structure. So the writer just use this structure but change it. So in the Nestor Cup we have the same structure but with a joke inside. So going forward, I just add another inscription here that could be interesting, and you can go to the link and go further. Here, for example, we have maybe a name under the end of this kyphos, and it's very clear, it's very neat again, the inscription. And maybe here there is this exchange between two consonants, and it's not scani but would be xeni, and that is very the beginning of different names attested in the area. And again, another interesting piece is this one. That is a name, again, very neat, after firing, scratched after firing on the neck of this big amphora, what should be a big amphora. And again, we have antekudeos, so a name in a genitive case in which so the description is like I am of antekudeos. So again, it's an ownership formula. And so these different examples are very similar to others that are at Eretria, in Athens, in Sicily, in Italy, in these stages. So the normal description, I would say, by if you do an overview of the first stages of writing, is the ownership formula, or some joke or longer description with some joke inside, and the ownership formula, and again a lot of marks and letters on different spots of the vessel, so on the neck or on the shoulder, or when we have caps or scuphoi, it's on the underside of the cap, so it's something that is kind of hidden, but in a very peculiar place. So if you, there is a very good idea from a scholar that if this scuphoi were kind of on the wall in the, I don't know, like in a kind of ancient bar, it was so clear, the underside, it was very clear and visible. So maybe this scratch on the underside of the scuphoi that were basically drinking cups, so were used to drink wine, were used to mark the ownership in places in which people used to drink. But it's of course an idea, unprovable, but it's just cool. So want to share. So I used the Manos idea to just put in one slide the things to take home, because I found it very, very useful. And also because maybe I've said too many things. So, okay, things to take home are that when we deal with this very tricky period of the inscription of the epigraphy, we should be very, very cautious and very, very critical. So I think that just the way to avoid to use old theory and go on with them without really have proof of them is to be very critical and try to rethink of the whole process using comparison with the other alphabets, other writing. The other thing is that we have to just keep in mind that what we see in the first inscription is not the first stage of the alphabets. So maybe it's not even the second one. It's a stage in which everything is organized. It's very too neat to have to be the first stages of it. Then that the writing at these first stages was created for several reasons, and mainly for labeling, maybe for commercial purposes, but we are not certain about it. Marking, so to protect your ownership or just claim it. And so also for ludic purposes, because we have a lot of ludic and joke and vulgar also inscription in this period. So maybe it's normal that when you find a very cool technology like writing, you want also to, I don't know, enjoy it. So it's another I don't know if I have to say purpose, but it's another use of the writing. And then that levels of literacy in archaic society are very numerous, diverse, and you can't you can't just think that there are like the elite that is literate and the other people that are not and can't read, because it's very clear from the I don't know, laws on stones and so on that there were different skills of reading and writing among people, not only the elite. And of course, that is not only the elite who writes, that we have different nuances of writers also. So we have to keep this in mind. I would go to the second part, but I'm not sure if you could use a break. You want to just I don't know, ask question now that we are in this first phase. I don't know, just
Does anyone have any questions now for Valentina? Valentina, thank you for the great first part, really. It's really good. Any questions about writing, about the travel of writing, the purposes, and most importantly about this very central issue of literacy and the levels of literacy?
I can show you in the meantime this very cool thing. Can you see the screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So they just put all description from Methoni and the other areas in this project. I'm not sure about the project, the big project, but I know that it's part of a national program. Maybe Manos, you know more about that, and just for the first time that I see this Rethymno.
It is the first time for me as well.
Okay. And so you just have like everything. You have the very good photographs, and you have the drawing here, and also a very, very good entry with all the information about the piece and all provenance and so on, measurement, and then the inscriptions and the edition commentary, and it's very, very rich and very well made. So,
yes, excellent. Thank you very much for this and for this, Valentina.
Thank you.
If there are no questions, maybe we can take a small break, say 10 minutes till 10 past, and see you all very, very shortly.
Okay.
So maybe people are already back. So maybe we can go to part 2 of today's presentation by Valentina. So Valentina.
Okay. Yeah, I can share again.
Of course.
Okay, here we are. Okay, so the second part is like more easy, maybe for me, maybe also for you. And I just put here the link to the handouts if useful. I want to give this kind of overview about the digital epigraphy, what's going on, and what is interesting or useful. I will present some of the projects that in which I work, of course, because I know them very well, but also some of the projects in which I know that maybe you can collaborate or you can use as the first experience if you want to work on an inscription or publish it or do the edition. So the first is Axon, that is a database of Greek historical inscriptions, which it means that is a database in which you can find different epigraphical records about very important inscription in the history of Greece from the 8th century to, of course, the 31 AC. So the usual canonical end of the Greek world. It is both in Italian and in English, so it's possible to read it in both languages, but of course more of the first entries are in Italian, because the first years of the project were it is based in Venice and were with Venetian collaborators. So Axon is basically like a database of epigraphical record, and you have all the basic and important information about the inscription. So all the information about date, place of chronology, type of inscription, the find spot. So all those information that are basically the identity card, the information inside it, and the identity card of an inscription. And this is an example in English. There are other examples, of course, in Italian, but it's possible to add other inscriptions in every modern language, basically. So this is the normal epigraphical record. So after the fine spot, you have the preservation place, so the archaeological museum in which it is, or if it's in situ, the place. The script, so for example, the layout of description, if the text is engraved, so the execution technique, letter size, and of course the language, if it's archaic, the alphabets. Then the lemma that is here, it's very, very simple, but usually it's something very, very difficult to create. The lemma is, I'm not sure if it's clear to anyone, so I will just give a few words. The lemma is like the genealogical tree of an inscription. So if you want to create a lemma of an inscription, you have to track back every edition of this inscription and to find out if one edition it depends on another or is autonomous. So for example, if this Triopanis saw the inscription for the first time, he created this edition, and then someone else, for example, that couldn't see the inscription through autopsy, maybe because it is lost or maybe because it just couldn't, can rely on Triopanis edition to create a new one, but it is a dependent one because it is created on Triopanis edition. I'm not sure if I'm clear. So the lemma is very, very important because when you create it, you have the clear structure of all the history of the studies on this inscription. So you can find if there are like, I don't know, mistakes in the reading that maybe are inherited by new editions. So it's very, very interesting and also useful. It's not something that you find usually in the epigraphical record. So it's like an important voice in our important entry in our record. And then we have the text, of course, the apparatus, so all the different readings of the same passages, and the translation, bibliography, of course, and when applicable, also the photographs to the description, and lastly, in our database, we have a link to the Axon journal. That is a journal indeed. So it is it is published every 6 months, and it also peer reviewed. So if you want to I don't know, start trying to do an edition of a text, Axon is a good medium, I think, because you have this format, right? So you have all these different fields that just give you the idea of what kind of information we need to create the proper edition. So if you are a beginner, I would say it's very useful. So we usually use this during epigraphical lessons with the students, because it's very clear the structure of the entry. And then if you want to go deeper, and after you created the entry, you want to publish it like in a proper publication, you have the journal, and so you can create a commentary that will be linked to the entry in database, and you will have a proper article and so on. Another project that is from Venice in a way, and has been conceived in a team in which there is also Dr. Eloisa Pagano, that is with us today, is the Venice Quiz project. It is a joint project. It is a project that is in collaboration with the University of Florida and with the ISOMA Laboratoire di Lyon. And this project it started with the idea to collect all these quizzes in the Venetian institutions, because there are several quizzes that are of stones that today are lost or damaged. So the importance of the quiz is not just on the one hand is the possibility to preserve the inscription even if the stone is lost or damaged. On the other hand, there is a new interest in the quizzes, like a new heritage that we have, and that is in a way, if you do an overview, a survey in our Italian university, but I think it's the same all over the world. We have a lot of different quizzes, maybe in stored somewhere that you maybe don't know, and they are interesting and they can be very useful, but we need to collect them, to find a way to show them to the big public and to also preserve them. So the idea was to do good photographs of the quizzes and also create a database of all these quizzes from Venice, starting from Venice, going forward with Rome and the other universities and institutions that host these quizzes. So, for example, here you can go. I think it's the. You can have the entry of this quiz, so you have all the information useful about it, date, inventory number, the place in which it's stored. And then there is this very cool thing that I have to show you, because we talked about the photogrammetry in maybe 2 lessons ago. And so that's the thing. I hope I can be able to do it. So you have this very good photograph that of the quiz, but you can also move it and move the light on it, because they made different photographs of the same quiz with different angles and lights in order to have the complete and the three-dimensional image of it. So you can just move the light and see all the details, rapture, lectures, and it's very, very useful if you don't have the actual stone, or maybe you just the stone does exist, but it's in a museum somewhere. You can just do not see it. So it's the quiz is useful itself for many, many reasons. And then going back to the presentation. So the other project that I will talk about is Sicily. Even if you are not very, I don't know, you love the Sicily as I do, it's very useful project, because it has been conceived using all the up-to-date and shared technology and tools that we have today in digital epigraphy. So the project itself was born like 10 years ago, but then it has been very much implemented. It is based at the University of Oxford, and it's Jonathan Prague that started it. The aim of this project is to collect all descriptions from Sicily from the 8th century BC to the 7th AD. So it's a very long period. The island is very big, so it's another big project. And for now, we have 4,500 inscriptions inside, but when we will be finished, there will be like 10,000, maybe more, because it's until the 7th AD. This project is useful if you are interested in the island, of course, because you can use different filters in the main page to just, I don't know, decide if you want to see all the inscription in ancient Greek or all description in Latin or all description in on metal, stone, and so on. So you have different filters. And the other important thing about this project is the technology behind. So you have, for example, here you open, I will open this description if I found the cursor, of course. I can't find it. Okay. And so you have, for example, this epigraphical entry. So as in Axon, you have the same main information. Image is the first one here, but the image of a description, and then all the edition that are linked to the bibliographical repository that we have, that is Zotero. Then the location, so the find spot, physical description. So the information are basically the same, but what is not the same is the use of technology that that allows you to create in one entry a record that is that use different and shared convention with all the community of digital epigraphists. So it's called this code, this way, it's called Epidoc, and it's basically I would say it's basically just a XML language applied to an epigraphical record. So it's not so far from the structure of Axon or of a normal epigraphical record, even on paper. But the new thing, the interesting thing, I can open it. It's yeah, here. The interesting thing that maybe is not so clear from this display, but I will go deeper, is that you can add inside every record all kind of information. So you can, okay, here it's just, for example, the title of the inscription, the people that collaborate to create this record, and then, for example, all the digital reference of description. So the reference to Trismegistos, EDR, Pacum, so all the digital databases of inscription that are reliable, that have this inscription. And then you can put information about the place of in which the inscription is stored. So you can add the museum, but also the coordinates, so you can see on the map the place in which it's stored. Of course, the main language. So the structure, as you can see, is very similar to a normal epigraphical one. But the difference is that when you add one information, you have to add also the correct reference to it. For example, you can say that is a lamina, so in bronze, the one on which there is the inscription. But then it's very useful to link to the URI that allows you to see, when I talk about lamina, what I mean with lamina. So the main purpose here to encoding everything and encoding all the corpora that we inherited is that we can create a network in which everyone all over the world can have the same lexicon, the same taxonomy when create an epigraphical record. So, for example, here we have this URI that is of lamina. And here, when you go on the URI, you just copy and paste the URI on your browser, you can see that you have the description of lamina, the other coordinates to it, how it is translated in different languages. In this case, it's very poor, this entry, but there are other cases in which we have different translation, description, and so on. So also because lamina, it's a very common term in different languages, so they just put it simple. But also, for example, when you add, I don't know, the execution technique, when you add engraved, it's a common word, but what do you mean when you say engraved? Because there are different words that sometimes as similar meanings. It's not so easy. For example, scratched, engraved, and so on are different words that sometimes are used not properly. So the idea is to create a taxonomy in which when you say engraved, you mean actually the technique to carve in the metal. So, and then again here, description, translation, examples. So everything is linked and it's well defined, so that everyone can collaborate and contribute, but with a very good system behind that, in which it's kind of impossible to do the wrong choices. So, for example, here you have the coordinates of the find spot. So we have Casmenai, the modern name, but also the geo coordinates to the actual place in which the lamina was found. So not only the cities of the city of Athens, but also the actual area in which the place was found, when you, of course, have this information for archival material. And again, you can, here there are other information less interesting. Here are the information about the image, and here is the text. So this is the famous way to encode the text in Epidoc. It's just maybe difficult at the beginning, but it's very easy, like after 1 week when you start doing it. So it's pretty simple after just a bit of practice. And it's a way to basically mark the text in a very objective way, putting, I don't know, tagging the words so you can find the word when you do the research inside the database. Or, for example, here you are tagging, for example, here I'm tagging that is a break, that is some like a break in the inscription. So after this word, epsaphisan, the text goes down. Or here, for example, I can mark that after to, I can say, looking at the description, that we have a lacuna of at least 17 character, or at most 18. So from the space, measuring it, I can say that we have this lacuna. You can be less granular, less specific, of course, if you cannot say how many characters you have, but I'm just showing the different possibilities. And then, of course, you have the apparatus, so all the different reading of the same inscription, translation in English and Italian, because just because the project is about Sicily, Jonathan Prague decided to try to give all the text also in Italian, and a commentary in which you can add a reference, online reference to other inscription or other stuff, or other, for example, to bibliography, passages in Perseus. So everything is like, it's just one entry, but everything is like a network full of different references to the main reliable databases online, so that you can have this word of linked open data, because that's what I'm talking about, are basically linked open data. And you can, as a researcher, you can just create all this interconnection, this network, and just work on different levels on the same document. So the geographical part, the archaeological part, just linking different database. But as a student, you have in one text all these references that are on at different database. But the main thing here is that all these links, reference are reliable, because the main problem today, as we all know, is that we have all this information that sometimes are not very reliable. So the duty here with the discipline like digital epigraphy, like epigraphy, is to create something objective, simple, but also reliable, comprehensible to also not only the digital people, and interconnected with other databases that are reliable themselves. And so in this way, systematize all the inscriptions, all the corpora, but in a like more objective way. So this is one of the like today challenges in digital epigraphy, and Sicily is just one project, but there are many others similar. So I just put here a list of the mainly the main projects that are like the cursor again. Okay. Aio, Sicily, Ospe, descriptions from Cyrenaica, a description from Crete, that is another Venetian project from a very young scholar, and the Crossreads, that is a new project based on Sicily. So these are the like up-to-date projects and interesting projects, but also there are like the second, and that's the second aim of digital epigraphy is not only systematize everything in objective ways, but also to just rethink in a way a system of the systematization of the past, in order to create something that is even more objective and shared as possible. So all the distinction in, for example, object types, material, for example, all the work that and Jeffrey done on the letter shapes, and that is already it's today it's already obsolete in a way. It's going through a process of rethinking and resystematizing. And for example, there are projects like Archetype that are trying to find a way to tag all the of the letter forms in an objective way. So for example, here you have an example of different shape of alpha on different object type, on different material, and they are trying to create a big database with all the shapes of letter divided into period areas and so on. Other projects are this Europeana project that is I would say old project, because it was 2010 when it was born, that aims to create vocabularies for everything. So vocabularies for material, for execution type of inscription, and these are the vocabularies to which we link our information, for example, in Sicily, but also in Axon and the other projects. So all the community of digital or Greek digital epigraphists are in a way connected in this taxonomy. And so the last thing I want to say is that digital epigraphy is a kind of new field that is parallel to Greek epigraphy. It's not taught everywhere, but there are very good tools online to learn and to practice. So there is, I put here some links to Synokisis DC and the digital classices that are the very remarkable and projects that are going on today. And for example, in Synokisis, you have all the lessons online on YouTube, and people from this big community, very young and passionate, that are very willing to help, collaborate, and so on. And so, for example, if you want to collaborate or start working on it, you can go here, and I just put a link to Axon or Sicily project. That is another project in which you can work as an external collaborator if you are a student or a scholar interested in the inscription from Sicily. And just to go back to our things to take at home. So what I wanted to flag in this second part is that digital epigraphy is indeed the present, but certainly the future of the Greek epigraphy. And that is a place open to collaboration among students and scholars of different knowledge. So in a way, I think that this digital medium democratized the discipline and opened the discipline of Greek epigraphy. Because sometimes even scholars of different I would say hierarchy work with the professor to the same project with the same tasks, just because everything is based on skills and knowledge of people and not on the hierarchy. And it is something very new in the academia, I would say. And last thing is that digital epigraphy is very an interesting place if you want to build on your knowledge about epigraphy, but also try to improve your knowledge about digital, find new skills. And it's so a very good place to start if you want to try I don't know, a career in academia, and you want to have a chance to find your way in it. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I used the reaction. Thank you very much for the excellent part 2 as well. We have got a bit of discussion in the chat as well about programs to use with XML. The most famous one is, of course, Oxygen. It is not cheap, but it has 1 month free trial. But there are other ways to work with XML. Even a text editor, any of the text editors can work, although it is a very manual job, whereas Oxygen helps a lot with these things. But there is also Atom, which is an open source free program, and you can use add-ons and color code things, and it works nearly as good as Oxygen. At least it's much simpler to set up and kind of easier to run, I think, than Oxygen at times. But it is a bit complicated when you have to check the grammar of things and like that. But what I think it's the most important thing that Valentina said on the second part is that there are so many ways you can get in touch with epigraphy by honing your IT skills as well, working with the text and understanding how you can research about it. And then there are options as well if you want to proceed on that in publishing, like the Journal of Action, which is peer-reviewed. And this is something, there are things that you can put always in your CV. There are skills that you expand your knowledge about the antiquity. And at the end, you have also deliverables that may work for all aspects. Thank you very much, Valentina. people, please, if you have questions, now's the time, I think.
I think there is Camila.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Valentina, thank you very much for your talk. I don't work with epigraphy. I don't work with digital humanities. And because of that, I really benefited a lot from from your lecture, from the things you shared with us today. And exactly because I don't work with this topic, I have a question that's more of a technical question. And I'm amazed with the things we can achieve when with digital humanities, and your presentation just confirmed that. But I also wonder how to keep these amazing resources working through time, because technology changes all the time and fastly. And these projects, they are created in a given context. So I think my question is, in addition to updating content, do these projects also update technology? And I'm asking this because something that works very well today may not work that well tomorrow. And many people who deal with simpler things such as a website know this from experience, and these are much more complex projects. So how do these projects deal with the technology challenges to keep going through time, and especially thinking in keeping these projects working well in the future?
Thank you, Camille. It's a very good question, and it's the first thing that it's the first problem maybe in every project. So it's the first problem too, because sometimes you have the funding for the first year of your project, and then that's it. So you have to keep it alive no matter what, but you have not the funding. So, for example, if we talk about this, so for Axon, for example, we decided to, after the first funding, we decided to use it as also a tool for teaching, and also a tool to create a group of people in Greek history and epigraphy inside our department in Venice. So, for example, I think it's an amazing idea. It's my tutor that has the idea. So Stefania Devido. That's so we have basically this group of people that are postdoc, graduate students, and also like students in the bachelor degree that contribute to the project at different levels based on their knowledge, basically. So even if we're not the funding to hire people to work on it, just because it's very useful for them to, I don't know, read an epigraphical text or create a new entry, or just work inside our editorial board. We have all this very big group of people that are working together, and we have just, I don't know, it's not an heavy work. So in 1 year you can spend, I don't know, 1 week working on it, but in a very collaborative way. So that's one of the maybe things that can work when you have a project that starts and then you have to find your way and you don't have funding. The other stuff about technology, it's true indeed. For Axon, in Axon, for example, we have a database. So in PHP, so it's basically something that will be soon, and it is in part obsolete. So it's true that in the future we will have to rethink about the structure. So that's very, very concerning for me. But in the case of the EpiDoc, I see that we have like a very durable structure there. So we have just basically an XML sheet. So you can theoretically use it in every environment, in every digital environment, and you can convert it. You can use it in every way. So even if you have, for example, iSicily. iSicily is a database that it was made 10 years ago, and now Jonathan is not very, he wants to change the interface, the structure, and so on, but it is created with different XML sheets, entries. So if he wants to change the interface, he has just to change the structure, but the work that is done and is there. And just because we have this big community, the Epidoc community, that share the same, I would say, problem, but also code, and it's there is this idea that every year people create a new Epidoc code. So we update ourselves every year. It's not easy, but there is a big community behind, so that we don't we keep up with technology without too much effort, and in this way, every database that uses Epidoc is up to date. So I think Epidoc could be the answer. I'm not sure if in 10 years we will be here and I can say the same, but it reveals so in the past. So I think Epidoc it's a new and functional thing. I don't know if I answered to your
Yes,
concern.
you did. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'm asking that because it's truly amazing, these projects, because if you think about it, if you have a printed catalog, you're very conditioned by the way the editor structured that. And with these resources, we can select what we can see and the way we can see. So it truly gives you liberty to work the way you see it's better fit for you. So
Yeah.
I think that it's something that really bothers me a bit, because I deal with something that's very simple, which is a website, and every time you have an update in the app, you go, oh my God, what I'm gonna do now? And now it messes with everything. So so it's something that it's very simple, but when you think about a project so important as the ones you presented to us and as many others, I imagine that is quite a big concern, and you just confirmed that to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we go to Paula, if I may, for those of you who are classicists, or you think of yourself like that, and you may prefer to start with text, for example, you can do the same with XML with papyri.info, where they use a similar system to annotate the papyri in their online system and catalog. And there are versions you can check and update even if you don't want to work on a new papyri, just update it based on the latest readings, and you just get a bit of experience on in a different interface of how you can do that and play with XML. Yes. Paula.
Oh, I think you're mute.
I'm mute now? Are you listening?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. And hi, Valentina and everyone. Thank you, Valentina, for your presentation. It was very interesting. And I have a question. It's about conventional methods in epigraphy, especially in my case in Greek epigraphy, and the digital method, the digital epigraphy, digital Greek epigraphy. I know I'm not an epigraphist. Okay, I'm trying to become one, but I'm trying to understand the conventional, the traditional epigraphy and this new one. So in epigraphy, we have to do squeezes, and for example, when you are in front of the PC, the sport, you needed to, sometimes you needed to do squeeze, charbonnage, I don't know in carbon in English, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
And the decal, for example. So this manually, I think this is the English word. Sorry about my English, okay? So these techniques in conventional epigraphy. When you are working with digital epigraphy, these techniques are no longer used, or it depends of the material that you are using and the condition, if there is digital, I don't know, if this material is digital on some base, or I don't know. I want to know if these techniques are no longer used with digital epigraphy, or if these techniques are used yet. So you needed to do squeeze, carbon, and the cogs, and that so on. What do you think about, please?
So it's a very good question, and of course the methodology is very important here, because when I said that everything should be reliable, what I mean is that also that we have to keep up with our with the proper methodology, up to date, but also using, of course, the old the canonical word that the Greek epigraphy created, because we know that it's in the nature of this discipline, all this matter about convention, and digital epigraphy, in a way, it's like taking all this and doing it more accessible and easier to display, to see, to find. So, for example, if you think about the squeezes, when you have an XML, you can add photographs of both the inscription, the actual inscription, but also of the squeeze, so that you can just display in the graphical record both the thing. Or if you think about drawings or something like that, in this description I showed you, we have the photograph of the lamina, but also the drawing I made, or in different cases we have, for example, photographs of the archival material. So we used all the canonical stuff that we have from Greek epigraphy from the past, but it's easier to show them to use them, for example, for the students. Also, it's easier to share this very big knowledge, very big heritage with the big public. That is another thing that is very one of the main topic here, because we have in our university in Italy these things called third mission. I don't know if you have too. So we have to find everything we work on, we have to in a way put in the society in which we live, just not to be the intellectual intelligentsia, but just to deal with the society. So they want from us to share our knowledge with the society, and to put it in a way that is very easy to understand, to share. So all these digital tools can create also this other solution for us. And for example, if you think about all the classification, categorization that we have from Guarducci, Jeffrey, about the object type, material type, and so on, it is very canonical, but sometimes it is not fair, it's not right, because maybe we have these categories, but they have to be in a way changed because they have to be improved. So, for example, in this case, we can use the old Greek epigraphy, but we can improve it and rethink, for example, all the problem about the function of the inscription that has been set in the literature, but is not so objective. So another things that I'm thinking of is that digital epigraphy, digital Greek epigraphy, but other digital epigraphies, they are trying to create also a shared system so that you don't are just dealing with the Greek epigraphy, but also you can talk with the colleagues from the Latin epigraphy as well, or Etruscan. So it's true that every epigraphy has its particular features, so it's very difficult sometimes to find a way in the middle, but for some things it is possible, and it has been done. So I think it's not a concern to it's the past is there, and we are well aware of it, but we are using it in a very I think effective way. But thank you for the questions.
Thank you very much, Valentina and Paula, for the questions and answers. Anyone else? If maybe someone has also questions about the first part.
Please, I have other two questions. Could I ask Valentina?
Of course.
Sorry, my laptop has a slowly. So, Valentina, the other two questions. The first one is, it's a very basic question. I don't know if maybe could be an idiot question. I don't know. But
there are no easy questions.
Thank you. In the beginning of the major study about epigraphy, and thinking about in 18th, 19th centuries, for example, the first inscriptions were hand drawn, right? And after the technology was being improved, like the beginning of the photography, and the cameras began to be improved. The technology was being developed, the same as we see today, but I'm thinking in the past. And at the time that the photography began to used to catch the inscriptions in the sites, for example, and thinking about today, when we use a cell phone camera or a professional camera to capture the inscription, just to take a photo, can I consider these photos, this kind of method of recording inscriptions, digital epigraphy or not? Because in the past, I don't know, maybe 19th century, the photography was invented and being used. Could you understand me
Yeah, no.
Sorry about confusion.
No, it's clear. It's clear. I would say that anything that is not that is digital in the sense, in the literal sense of it. So, for example, the digital photography. So, with the new cameras that can do macro or something like that in a very new way, structuring the photographs in a way that you can see one-to-one what you are photographing, for example, can be already in the field of digital. Of course, it's everything that is not analogical can be digital in a way, but so I think maybe the new methodology to photograph the epigraphies are digital in a way. Yeah, I don't know if I answered completely to your question, but of course the drawings, the first photograph in black and white or squeezes are analogical indeed. So they are not in this realm, in this field. Thank you.
And the last question, please, if you allow me. Thinking about this new scenario that we see in the postmodernity with the advanced technology.
I think Paula just froze. Maybe she also dropped, or she will drop soon. I think Stefanos has raised the hand until at least Paula returns. Hopefully she will.
Yes, I have. Thank you very much for that. I didn't want to interrupt, to be completely honest, but here it goes. Valentina, again, thank you very much for everything today. Can I take you back to the first part of the session? Yeah. So back to the aparche, to the beginning of early Greek alphabet, that is. So I cannot wrap around my head the idea that it could have only taken a few months or weeks for this brand new innovation to catch on in the Greek world. I mean, yeah, to begin with, it presupposes a great level of abstraction, right? To capture the epiapteroida, the flying words, and put them on hard material. It requires a certain degree of abstraction, similar to coinage, and coinage took ages to catch on. So you also need an audience that is interested and trained, of course, and you need general agreements, right, on conventions. And when we want to express the sound, or we have this circle and so on. And of course, you need an interconnected world, but all worlds are interconnected, whether we like to say it or not. So where do you stand on this, if you don't mind my asking? I mean, it is a very difficult concept to begin explaining. I think. How could it have taken just a few months? Any thoughts on Nino Luragi's ideas?
But also Nino Luragi was less optimistic than Westad, that said that it took a few weeks. That it's very impressive. So I cannot agree with this idea. Because it is very difficult to just think about the spread. So if you are thinking about the technology itself, the creation of it, the adaptation from definitions, I think it could be close to the reality that years took to create it, not months. And also we have other examples. For example, from Sicily, okay, I know that I'm in love with Sicily. I'm sorry for mentioning it, but from Sicily we have these indigenous people. I would say indigenous. Sorry, just to be general, that they just took the alphabet from the Greeks, and they started to write. And the interesting thing is that they were not alphabetized, right? So they just have oral culture. And they were there when the Greeks arrived. The Greeks arrived in the 8th century. So when, and the first evidence of writing is in the 6th, at the beginning of I would say, sorry, at the end of the 7th century and the beginning of the 6th. So it's basically 1 century that the indigenous people from Sicily used to take this alphabet from the Greeks, and started this and used this technology from the self, and also they basically use the same layout, I would say, that the Greeks, because they just put on the ceramics, this is the vase of or on vessels just put marks, or just name, or just single letters, and we have several longer inscriptions. And also there is the problem that the Sical and Limian language, that are the 2 languages that we have in Sicily, are not deciphered. So it's very difficult to say what is on these stones, but we have like several longer inscriptions, but the other ones are shorter and are very basic text. And we have just 1 century of epigraphy from these people after 1 century after the Greeks colonized Sicily. So this is one example of 2 cultures, the 2 cultures that are in contact, and they share the technology. It took 1 century to start it and maybe appreciate it, maybe because maybe at the beginning they were not interested. I'm not entirely sure about that, but so we are thinking that the Greeks were very much more clever indeed than the poor people of Sicily, but I don't know, months. It's very difficult to admit that it took months to start this technology. And the other problem, the spread, I think it's just basically impossible to just imagine it, because we should, I don't know, conceive big database, like creating I don't know, a set of communication routes. So how fast the ships could go, how fast a technology could go. So we should maybe compare the writing with other technologies, like I don't know, coins, for example, is a very good example. And weeks, it's very unlikely. Month, maybe very optimistic. But again, I think that the spread, it's quickest than the creation of the technology. Maybe it's the only thing that I could say for sure. That's my certainty are not so many in this field.
Yeah, it is impossible to be certain. I mean, as you said, we cannot pinpoint the very beginning of anything. The very quest of origins is, as a scientific question, as a valid scientific question, I think it is debatable. And again, thinking from the comparative evidence of coinage, where the added element is money, right? So there is value to be made. There is a fortune to be made in adopting coinage quickly. And again, it took decades for the Greek settlements in Asia Minor to pick up on what their neighbors did, the Lydians. It literally took them decades, and it was all about making a fortune. So if scribing on stone or on other materials, perishable or not, is not that vital to one's survival, maybe we can assume that what you say, what the example you used in Sicily, is actually right on the money, and we have to presume the longue durée here, century, even long, maybe longer. Yeah.
But there is a thing maybe that we have to take in mind when we compare coins with epigraphy, that coins are very much related to the power, so they have to be official. There's to be a structure, a social environment, a social need to create them. So not all the cultures have actually money, but the epigraphy, if we accept the concept that it could be something that maybe also people from not only the elite but from other conditions could use, it's something that is not official, but it's true that there is a teaching process to think about before, of course. So it took time, but it's not the first. At least the first evidence is not official. So maybe we have to also do a distinguish between the official writing, like laws and so on, and the scratch on the vessel, maybe sometimes very not neat. So you can see that is something like improvised in a way, or maybe the alphabetaria are like signs that there is a teaching process there, and so they are just trying to. It's something less statalized that money. That's what I mean. I don't know if. Okay. Paola,
Stefanos?
maybe.
Paola, maybe, if Stefanos has nothing else to add. Paola, welcome back. We're very sorry to see you go. So maybe you can repeat the full third question. I think you kind of dropped midway, right?
Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I lost my connection. Actually, the Greek gods tried to to not allow me to do my question, but I don't give up. So my last question is, it's about what do you think about the future, like you said, the future of the digital epigraphy? Because we know that technology is something that we can't stop, but we know that some people, just the way they work, for example, has some difficulty to I don't know the English word, to do with the technology improving, and they prefer to stay working with the conventional ways that they know. This kind of thing happens, for example, my university with some professors, Greek professors that prefer use the conventional methods in Greek education, for example. So my question is, what do you think about the future of digital epigraphy, thinking in all the whole parts of the world, the whole countries, the whole universities, for example, about the use of these so sophisticated methods in digital epigraphy? For example, not only the EpiDoc and the IFES, for example, but photogrammetry used, and all the other so sophisticated tools, which is created every time for help. What do you think about? Is there, and it will be continuing having, sorry about my English, the two groups, the people who prefer the conventional and the people who go ahead in the digital, totally go ahead, go surfing the head. What do you think about, please?
So I was laughing just because I'm thinking that we, or and I don't know if I have to say we, but digital epigraphists are indeed new generations that are going to, pardon me, replace the older ones. So I think it's a kind of physiologic or natural process that this field is so passionate and young and lively that I think it's pretty something natural that in a decade will be taught in different universities and will be the normal stuff to know. So it's even today more clear than when I was like 10 years ago, when I was starting university, that it is a skill that you should have. So it's a problem. What you mentioned, it's probably not so far from me, because when I started the first degree in Catania, I was just not aware of all this world, because the professors there were kind of obsolete in this way. So it was Venice that opened my mind in a way. But the natural process here is to open the discipline to the digital in the same way as archaeology did with the GIS, ArcGIS, QGIS, and so on. So, of course, for archaeology is more normal, I would say, because they need those tools to work. But it's true that it's like Darwinism, so I don't know, it's something like that. And so I will not be concerned about the future of digital epigraphy. And I think also that maybe this more young and more open way to approach it, it's the good way to follow, to open the discipline to more people. Because the problem of epigraphy, at least in Italy, is that we have very few teaching courses all over the place, and so a few places as a teacher and so on. So maybe this is a way to just make it less old than the canonical way to teach it and to do research on it.
If I may continue. Yeah.
Thank you for all your attention and opportunity to ask you my questions. Thank you so much for your attention.
Of course,
and
you're welcome always. Thank you very much for that, Valentina, indeed. And I see it as well. I think in 2019 I was in a meeting in Helsinki with Gabriel Bodard in a workshop of EpiDoc, and I had the same exact question: how alive is this thing, and how can we help it grow? And his response was something like there are at least 500 people who are working eagerly on that at different levels, but they always return to. And there is a mailing list that is very, very active, and you see people always exchanging information of how to lematize different things, how to work around issues. But still, I think we have a very long way to go, in the way that it is indeed so easy for us, at least as kind of younger generation, to pass from all those technological things that we are dealing with everyday life to work a bit on XML. It's not very difficult, indeed. It will take you a fraction of time. It just needs a bit of time for you to practice it as a hobby. But what we need to do is, whenever we have the chance of I don't know, speaking with students, maybe presenting something that can be worked on an XML or has already been worked on an XML, kind of advertise it, market it in a way, because even younger people are much more versed in digital things than we are. And it is a kind of connection to them that they can do something that it may be applicable in different positions. Also, there are so many projects nowadays that need for people who are trained in digital humanities in a way of encoding, for example. And it's something that maybe 5 years ago you wouldn't have picked up, but maybe a master in encoding or IT or a language of computer may help in dealing with those aspects. So you can be a trained archaeologist, classicist, and something else, and you can find a post that works with both your skills. It's very important in our realities. We know how humanities have been bombarded for all those things that we do not produce, even if we do produce all those things that people say we don't. Thank you very much for that, Valentina, and for Paula for kind of setting up the ground for this. Are there any other questions?
Valentina, I hope you are not so tired, but if you could allow me 2 minutes after the end of the registration, I would like to talk to you about, if you can give me some advice about Venetian archives. It's a totally different project. If you know something, it's a we can talk later. If you are Stanka, we try to do it
I'm fine.
Another day. Don't worry.
No, I have the adrenaline. So it's I'm
okay.
fine.
Okay. So let's let people ask the questions, and I will talk later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think there is some Gabriel.
Gabriel, yeah.
I think you are mute.
Not yet. Okay, I will read the question.
Okay.
Okay, yes, indeed. We may go on as Gabriela composes the text. We did have an opportunity to discuss a bit of databases in a passing way in the first course, and some of the things that you discussed also for the beginnings of epigraphy, but by far not in such a deep way. And we thank you very much for that. And I think that it synergizes well with what we have done in highlighting aspects that we have to think about, even in later, for example, inscriptions on the ways of literacy, for example, who is writing, for whom, why, who can read, what can one do with those things, and that includes us as well as researchers of antiquity, and also for the possibilities that open up from dealing with text, especially if you are very good in dealing with ancient Greek or Latin. Okay, and of course we have focused only in the Greek part side of epigraphy, but all those are applicable in Latin epigraphy as well. So it is, I think, at the reach of your hand to start dealing with epigraphy, start working, volunteering for projects just on your own way. If you have like a blog page, a personal website, or you want to play around with visualizing an epigraphical text, and try please do try Epidoc and FS. Also, if you are registered in the classicist list or in a wiki, the digital classicist, you can see the courses that are happening all around the world. Sometimes are open, like the Synekoisis, I don't know, series of seminars that provide kind of a manual, a handbook from scratch to a higher level of dealing with digital epigraphy as well. So there are chances for digital training as well, online one. You do not need to travel, and I think that one of the good results of COVID is that a lot of more things happen in a hybrid way, so we get more chances. So if we return to Gabriel's question, I read, Gabriel was thinking about the first part of the presentation of Valentina. Is it possible to approach the issue of literacy through its different uses? I mean, more literacy is needed to write and understand a small Menassius poem than to label a merchandise with your name. Could this approach tell us with more accuracy which groups were using those letters?
Yeah, so yeah, the point is, of course, that if you think about different levels of literacy, you have to think about different social condition, different levels of knowledge, and it's something that I have to flag that, of course, if you can write a longer inscription, maybe in verse, it's very likely that you are this elite that we talk about. So it's true that that kind of knowledge maybe we have to link to the elite. So we know that this group is the group that maybe, I don't know, it's the first apoikoi or the citizens of the polis. When you have polises, I don't know, it's not, or in one apoikia. When you have a label, it's more tricky, because if you write, for example, in that cup, I am the cup of and the name, and it's so neat, you can think about commitments, because it's so neat that maybe there is a workshop there is a workshop behind. It's not like a person that at some point wants to mark his identity just on the road. Maybe there is something more there. Sometimes you have just scratches or like one letter, very bad, scratched on one vessel. So in this case, it's the first thought. It's there's something more ex impronta. It's something like more improvised. So that's the level of literacy that I was talking about. It is true that we have to think of different groups there, and we have a lot of different actors that we need to check, and we need more research on this, because we have the craftsmen, so the workshop, that is one thing, but we have also the elite that could write. We have like people of lower status that maybe have the interest to try to write. We have another group that are the people that are trying to learn writing. So, for example, when we have the abecedaria, it's pretty clear that there is another things in act, that is the teaching process. That is another very, very interesting thing, and today there is attention on this problem of the abecedaria, because they are very much the first evidence of the teaching process, but we do not have so many abecedaria in the Greek world in the archaic stages. So it's kind of frustrating, but it's one of the things that are on the edge today. And so you are absolutely right that we have to think of different groups, and we have when we have the polis, it's very much interesting to create a sort of match when you work on the epigraphical evidence, also work on archaeological evidence, on the literary sources, and try to recreate the society as it was in one period. So every evidence is important there, and so thank you for your question.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. Thank you very much, Valentina. If people do not have any further questions, maybe we can finish it up this meeting, as we have already kept Valentina, as we always do, a bit more than our allocated time. Thank you again, Valentina, for the fantastic dual type presentation today.
Thank you very much.
We are grateful to you and for the resources that you shared in the folder as well. Very, very happy that I was here able to listen through all of it too. We will reconvene next week for the last course of the Introduction to Epigraphy course. And we will look at an overview of the epigraphic world from all its huge territory beyond the territories of the Hellenistic world that we have already looked upon in previous sessions. So it will be all moving around, and we have left a bit of space as well for a general discussion of the deliverables of this course, on questions of your feedback as well, of what you liked, what we can improve, how we can proceed with epigraphy. Thank you all for joining today. Have a very nice week and weekend, and see you all very, very soon.
Okay, Manolis, but please join.
I will not.
I will not close it.
Ok, ok, great. Valentina, la mia domanda era una cosa semplice, spero